Hey guys, what's up? Hey, real quick. This isn't too distracting, is it? I mean, well, hopefully the sound isn't too distracting. I don't think the sound is distracting anymore, but it's just more like having it in the camera. I've always been kind of self-conscious about this thing being like right there, but that's this mic. I kind of have to have it pointed at me like this, and if I have it like off camera, then you can't really hear me too well. And yeah, I could rely on the webcam mic, but you know how it sounds with the webcam mic, and though I've did plenty of past videos with the webcam mic, I just find that this one sounds clearer, and I'm still having to. You know what? I could talk about the technical issues later. Just I hope this isn't too distracting. Actually, having this in view, but it's whatever. Anyway, quick update on things before I get to the topic at hand. I have a little bit of good news about the whole martial arts video situation. Also, the phone situation, because the phone situation is tied to the martial arts situation, since the phone is what I use in order to record stuff outside. I got a new one. It's another HTC One, M8 model. So I at least have a camera. So hopefully, if I can just get some people to stay and be willing to have a sword swung at them, at threatening distances, though I'm not planning on hurting them, I can get back to what I was doing before with, showcasing how moves are done. By the way, excuse the noise in the background. My son's playing a game. I just need to schedule things, make sure the scheduling conflicts are resolved, and that I have some time off at work, which is... Anyway, the one bad thing, though, is that this phone is not exactly, like... I'm with T-Mobile. This is a Verizon phone. The phone was advertised as unlocked. And yes, technically it is, but since it was a phone that was made for Verizon, not all the, data bands, radio bands in here are exactly tuned to the way T-Mobile has their stuff. So sometimes I get reception, like data reception and messaging and stuff, and sometimes I don't. There are times when this thing is like dead, and I got to play around with the settings in order to get stuff to get through. It's a pain in the ass. So this is on borrowed time as well. Sooner or later, I'm going to have to switch to something else, but right now, with money and time and all that, this is the best that I got. But at the very least, I got a working camera again, so hopefully you'll still do stuff on the outside. But I still got to schedule the time and all that. So in the meantime, again, I'm kind of going back to the roots of this channel, which is talking about unpleasant topics, philosophically, politically, and all that sort of stuff. And what I'm kind of touching a little bit on is the current presidential election in the States and how much of a freaking show it's become. This has got to be the craziest election that I have seen yet in, living in this country. Being born here, seeing several presidential elections, each one always ends up being its own circus, I guess, but this one is just insane. It's just... oh, gods. I mean, yeah, I could go into the specifics of why this is a freak show. I can get into, the candidates themselves, the two that they're showcasing to us, even though there's more than two. I go into their backgrounds, I can go into how things have been covered, but that's not really what the video is about. No, it's to me more of the fact that this election is more of a distraction than anything else. That's, I think, one of the main things about why this thing is such a freak show. Guys, the election's already over. You know this. I know this. It's over. It's done. It's a farce. You know who's going to win. Unless there's a major upset, you know who's going to win. Which in itself is an indictment on how the system is done these days, but it's a topic for another time. But they're still showcasing you all this stuff, and they're still showing you all this stuff to get you all riled up and angry about who said what, and, oh, did you hear what she said? Oh, I can't believe he said that. You know who these people are. You know what they're going to do. Why continue to act surprised? And the media is constantly harping on the stupidity of the election rather than on the things that you should know about the election. Like what's actually truthful and what's not. What's the factual information you should be focusing on to, inform your decision come voting day, and what's not. That's what the media should be focusing on. They're not doing that. There's a reason. Because the election is nothing but a distraction at this point. Which again in itself is deplorable. The fact that an election is a distraction. But it is. Why would I say that the election is a distraction? I mean, it's an election for the president of this country. That's got to be one of the most important freaking things, in the U.S. right now. So how could something like that be considered to be a trivial distraction? That's insane to even think about, much less suggest, right? Well, for starters, I can state that even though this is the presidential election and the president is supposed to be the leader of the country, it does appall me that people seem to forget that the president isn't the end-all to be-all of lawmaking and law enforcement in this country. We have a Congress. We have a House of Representatives. Those guys are the ones who, for the most part, determine legislation. Those are the guys, for the most part, where we have all the arguments on what laws are going to get passed and which ones aren't. Yes, the president has executive powers. Yes, they can veto certain things, but for the most part, it all goes through Congress. And whatever bills that are presented have to go through that. Those are the most important elections. I mean, and we do have elections for many of those seats this year. The media should be talking about those seats and who is going to be up for re-election and who's threatening what seats and what their platforms are and what they voted on before if they've already been in office. Media's not focusing on that, but that's really important. They've never really focused on that, but they really should, because that's what's really important. Ain't doing that. They're focusing on the presidency because the figurehead is more important, right? Another reason why I'm saying this is a bit of a distraction is because there's some really important stuff going on right now. Like the fact that, I don't know, tensions in Syria and the civil war going on there are getting so rough that people are beginning to fear that we might be close to a World War III. And granted, some of that is going into the realms of hyperbole, but there's still some major tensions going on between some major world powers on what's going on in that small part of the world. Not much focus on that, other than the just, the usual demonizing of one side and making the other side look, oh, we're innocent, we're trying to help, not really going into the actual factors and what's involved and why people are acting the way they're acting, why certain political powers and certain foreign governments are reacting the way they are to what's going on. That's important. A citizen of a republic should know about these things. Gotta look for independent news sources to find out about that stuff. No, we'd rather focus on what, what Trump is saying or what Clinton is saying, just to mention names. I might as well just mention names. But yeah, let's focus on the ridiculousness of that and not on something that can have major repercussions down the line. Or how about the fact that there's some human rights abuses and civil rights abuses going on and major treaties being broken in this country right now? Yes, I'm talking about the pipeline going on in North Dakota. That's some serious shit. If you want to talk about being distracted from something important, how about that? How about the fact that that pipeline is being pushed through land that it's illegal for them to build it on because of a treaty that they made with the people living there, that they're now violating and being backed by the government to violate? And the fact that the major media sources of this country, the mainstream news, is barely touching on it, if at all. They'll mention every now and then, oh, they're still protesting down there, rioters, whatever. Not focusing on what's really going on, the repercussions of what is happening down there. The fact that it's looking like we're back into the late 1800s, early 1900s of businesses being able to dictate what happens to people living in land that they want to just take over. Backed by the police from many different states, all coming in to volunteer to violate the rights of the people protesting the illegal move going on there right now. The fact that they've arrested journalists, real journalists, not the jackasses that you happen to see on national news, real journalists going down there actually reporting on what's going on and presenting it in independent news sources. They've been reporting on what's going on down there. They've been reporting, and because of that, they've been arrested and being charged with trumped up charges, a bunch of stuff to discourage this sort of thing. The only way you can we've been able to find out about what's been going on there at all was through independent news sources and social media. That's it. And that should worry you. We used to talk about all the time how things in other countries that governments wanted to suppress, wow, those people are resorting to using social media to find out what's happening. Man, I'm glad in the U.S. we got a free press, and it's happening here right now. Think about that. Right now, there's something major going on in North Dakota, and the only way you can get any real factual information about it is to resort to independent news sources and social media. As if you happen to be living in a third world country with a dictatorial government trying to suppress all information. It's happening right now in this country. And what we're getting for news instead is about a bunch of BS in an election that's pretty much already over with. You're just rather focusing on the shenanigans of what some stupid candidate happened to have said that particular day. One that's known for saying stupid shit anyway. What's new here? That's what annoys me about this election. It's a distraction. And that in itself is something that people should think, wait a minute. Government election is being portrayed as a sideshow, has been turned into a sideshow. Something that important has been turned into nothing but just something to eat popcorn and watch. Or to get irate at. Something just to, the usual BS of tugging at your emotional passions. Getting you angry, getting you outraged, getting you shocked, getting you embarrassed. Anything but keeping you informed about what's really important in this election. That's not important. What's important is the sideshow part. And that in itself is just a distraction to keep you from other things that you should be concerned about. Why the hell in a country that's supposed to be about free press is this information being suppressed? And why are these people allowed to build on land that they're not supposed to be allowed to do, with the police backing up their that action? Why are journalists being suppressed from reporting this sort of thing and punished if they do so? Yeah. People keep saying that, oh, they want to make this country greater. You know, we want to bring harmony. We're about healing. We're not about negativity. But in the meantime, this shit's going on and they're saying nothing about it. I haven't been talking about things politically recently because I knew that if I did, all I'd be doing is ranting and screaming in front of this camera. Because I have not been happy with the past few years. Far from it. But I just had to at least throw this one out there. This has been on my mind for a while now. Like just how ridiculous mainstream news has gotten and how devalued important aspects of our country have become. When an election has become a sideshow. When an election has become something to just gawk at. Just, no matter how outraged you may get about, what's going on or whatever candidate you happen to be backing for whatever reason you happen to be doing, keep that in mind. That it is being presented as a sideshow. And that unless you've done some really good research on your own, and that, your personal research happens to be digging through, real factual information rather than the propaganda that, certain parties are feeding you, just keep that in mind that you're not getting that information from the mainstream news. The research and stuff that you're doing has not been given to you the way it should be. And that there's other important aspects that this thing is distracting you from. To the point where you have to go to outside sources in order to get it. The pipeline building and the desecration of Native Americans in this country is going on right now, and mainstream news refuses to talk about it. which actually is business as usual if you know the history of this government and Native American people in this country. That in itself should be bothering you. Stuff going on politically around the world. The tensions happening because of what's going on in Syria and the fact that there are major breakdowns happening in government and that it could be leading to war should be talked about more factually in mainstream news, and it's not. And this is happening in a country that's supposed to be about free press. I'm repeating myself now, but I'm hammering on that because I want... Just stop. Take a break from the outrage that you might be feeling every time you happen to notice some new BS about the election and realize that this is a distraction. If you're going to get angry at something, get angry at that. It would be beautiful if I suddenly saw American citizens actually taking their news to account. Like, actually, wait a minute. Fuck you. Present some real news. I don't give a damn what your corporate masters are telling you to put out. I thought you motherfuckers were supposed to be journalists. How come you're not backing up the journalists who are getting arrested in North Dakota right now? Why aren't you, doing anything about that? Unless you guys happen to not have any journalistic integrity whatsoever. Yeah. Next video will be a lot happier. I promise. But at least think about that. That's been burning in my mind for a while now. And I'm hoping that enough people start thinking about that themselves, because maybe that will change things. I don't know if it will, because you know how people are. Enough of that. I'll have something better in the next video, something a little bit more uplifting, a little bit more entertaining. And I do promise them having the more martial arts stuff coming on down the line. So, catch you guys later.